At approximately 9 p.m. on Thursday, the subject in question drove a blue Subaru sedan across a patch of grass in front of the Long Beach Convention Center. Then, disregarding traffic, crossed Shoreline Drive at high speed before continuing southwest on Pine Avenue. After barely avoiding the evening crowds on Long Beach Pier, the subject continued accelerating down the pier, eventually losing contact at the water's edge. Fortunately, a barge was moored in the harbor, and the vehicle struck the top side of the barge before crashing into the vessel's end. The subject then exited the damaged vehicle, continued on foot, and jumped into the harbor, where he was pulled from the water due to a quick response by Long Beach police and fire departments. No injuries were reported. I know what you're thinking. How can someone so reckless be so impossibly lucky? Well, fortunately, it was all caught on camera.
Celebration. He couldn't go into water the normal route, the normal way.
Not reckless and not lucky, just willing to skillfully challenge the impossible. This was Travis Pastrana achieving his impossible dream of jumping a rally car over water and onto a floating barge, a new world record of 269 feet. I'm part of a great team of people who get asked to bring these impossible dreams to life. We operate a lot in the space where action sports and motorsports intersect and spend much of our time bringing these world record feats to a worldwide TV audience. I ended up in this position because I am a chronic denier. I love to deny the existence of the impossible. Impossible is like a giant mountain guarded by dragons. It's scary. It's daunting. It seems unassailable. But there's always a way to slay the dragons and climb that mountain. Our team hacks impossible dreams, helps make them live, and maybe even brings them to prime time. Let's just step back a minute and think about impossible. Say you're on a battlefield in 1917 during World War I. You're sitting in a trench with bombs and gunfire going off all around you, and you know that sometime soon the order is going to be given to go over the wall and run towards the enemy. You turn to your best mate sitting next to you, and you say, wouldn't it be great if we could just sit in a room somewhere and send the bullets right to the enemy without ever going over there? What do you think your best mate would say? Well, that's impossible. Or imagine you're a visitor to the brand new British Library in London in April 1974. Someone comes up to you and says, one day soon, all of these books will be available to you by tapping on your wristwatch. What do you think he would have said 50 years ago? Impossible is just something that hasn't happened yet. There's that famous saying by the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. He says, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. I think Lao Tzu was wrong, because the journey starts well before the first step is ever taken. It begins when someone says, yes. Agreeing to the idea of the journey is where it all really started. Yes is the fuel that powers our dreams. Without enough yes, no dream can move forward. But the problem is, yes is hard, because yes is a commitment. Once we say yes, work has to follow. Once we say yes, we can be proven wrong or be otherwise embarrassed. Yes tends to expose us and often leads to stress. So in most cases, it's much easier to just say no. But what if I told you Research has shown there's a kind of positive short-term stress you feel when committing to something. So, although it feels uncomfortable, saying yes might actually be good for you. Yes is the sword that slays the dragons. I've had a curiosity problem my whole life, and it comes with an alarming tendency to say yes. I love to say yes and then figure out what it was I just said yes to. It's why I ended up in North America instead of a life in England, and it's been responsible for so many amazing things that have happened in my life. So it should come as no surprise, my career involves a lot of saying yes. So, how do we get an idea from being merely impossible to ending up on prime time? Well, it usually starts with a question like, do you think it's possible to... And after a brief assessment, the answer is usually yes. And of course, that's when the work starts. Could a motorcycle jump the length of a football field? Yes. Could a full-size off-road truck do a backflip? Yes. Could a snowmobile jump over 400 feet without snow? Yes. Could a car jump the Great Wall of China? Well, that one's still theoretical, but I know the answer. And of course, can a rally car jump off a pier and land on a floating barge? Say it with me. Yes. Feels good to say yes, doesn't it? We get to do a lot of things that have never been done before. And the reason we're so successful in helping these exceptional individuals realize their impossible dreams is because we pretty much follow the same pattern every single time. Here's what it looks like. Some curious individual has an idea and says yes to themselves. We can say yes to their idea because our gut and our experience allow us to do so, but then we spend some time doing the real feasibility. We don't do it alone. These projects can only be realized if you have a team of smart, motivated people along for the ride. The dirty little secret of these crazy live events is that we practice real-world scenarios before we ever get to the live show. So the goals we're chasing have to be defined, how we test the hypothesis and how we practice it. If ever there was a place where people who like to say no live, it's when you're trying to get a permit for something considered impossible. Maybe it's because they fear the liability that comes with challenging the impossible. Or maybe it's because their minds can't quite stretch to the level of the idea we're presenting. But to our strange little team, impossible, it's just an impediment. We design intentional processes before we get to practice in the live event. Intentional processes are the checks and balances that make or break every one of these live shows. Do the same thing, same order, every time. In 2008, Australian Robbie Madison, known as Maddo to his friends and fans, was driving through Las Vegas, and he saw the scale Arc de Triomphe outside of the Paris Hotel on the Las Vegas Strip. He came up with the impossible dream that he could jump a dirt bike onto the roof of the Arc and then jump back down again. That Arc de Triomphe is over 100 feet tall. The project was scheduled for December 31st, and it came with some unique challenges. The local authorities, like police and fire, were going to have to be persuaded that we would not be a burden on an already busy New Year's Eve. We would be blocking the main entrance and valet drop-off of one of Las Vegas' busiest hotels. Oh, and the Arc, it doesn't have a roof. It has a wall around the top, but the actual roof was several feet lower. So look, the impediments were all there. But the real question, how does someone train to drop off a 100-foot tall building while riding a dirt bike? It turned out the answer was deceptively simple. We used a stage roof structure you'd normally see at outdoor music festivals. It's 4 truss corners with motors and a platform that goes up and down in small increments, so we could gradually increase the height as Matto got comfortable jumping on and jumping off. So we put those intentional processes in place, made sure all the safety parameters were there, and then we slowly went up, about 10 feet at a time. Now, some exceptional dirt bike riders could probably have followed this systematic process and maybe achieved the jumps. But what sets the great athlete apart is when you're sitting on that bike, on the night, on an elevated ramp, with lights and sound and 30,000 people clamoring to see you, and you're ready to make history when someone says, go. You get one shot, one live TV window, and you have to be ready when the clock hits 0. That was a night to remember. Maybe you're sitting there now and you're thinking about an impossible dream that's been swimming around in your head. Well, the fact is that no matter how big or small, the same process we use for all of these projects can help you realize your dreams. First, let your curiosity run free. Give your dream the fuel it needs and the power to move forward. Give the idea a yes. Then, ask yourself if it feels feasible, and ask some people you consider smart to poke holes in it. Now you're talking about your idea, build a team to support the dream, because it's a rare dream that's ever achieved without help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You would be surprised how many people will be pulling for you. Define the goals that will give you the steps to your destination, because you can't go 1,000 miles if you skip a step. And remember, things can and do go wrong. So seek the impediments before they come out to bite you. Put your version of those intentional processes in place, specific to your idea. Then pull all the people and the information together and take that leap. You just might surprise yourself. Slay those dragons, climb that mountain, and hack your impossible. Thank you.